I started off playing totally by ear, so I never had the theory behind me, and quite a few years later I decided to do a bit of theory. I did UNISA, I studied my grade 5 music theory, and so I sort of got the theory now behind me. I went to Carlo for a year, he gave me more theory, so I got a fairly good understanding. With my playing, I've never really been theory based, so it took me ages. I never knew the difference between a major and a minor. When you're playing blues, even now that I have the theory behind me, I find that you can bend that theory quite a lot. You can play minors over majors and majors over minors. If you do it right. Obviously there's a time and a place for everything. I'm Dave Askus, part of the Askus clan of bass players. I've been playing for quite a long time. I actually started in 1980. I know the year because my brother was a bass player before me, and I played a little bit of guitar. And then he had to go do his military service in 1980, and when he went for that, one of the bands needed a bass player. So then I decided to switch over to bass, and I never looked back. It's just something. I hardly play guitar anymore. I actually don't play guitar anymore. I just play bass. I love the instrument, and it's become a passion of mine. So, I was playing for a couple of gig bands in those days until I did my military service as well. Then I was fortunate enough to get into a military band, and I did my 2 years national service in the medics band. Hooked up with Maurits Lotz there as well. The first recordings he ever did, we did together. And from there, I've just been playing with many little outfits here and there, nobody too famous. I played a lot of blues. I played with Larry Amos for quite a few years. Actually, I still play with him every now and then. I played with Johan Meiring, which I met you with as well. I played with, what's his name, Clark, Gerald Clark, and Peter van der Hoven. I played with, I did one gig with Dan Petlansky. Old Frost, he played with us as well. So I played with quite a few of the blues guys. I liked the jazz scene. I kind of got into a bit of jazz, not mainstream too much, but I did do some mainstream gigs. Jason Green got me into getting a double bass at a stage. That was about 12 years ago, and I played a bit of that, and then I did some jazz, and I went to Carlo Mombelli for a year to study jazz. He taught me a lot, but I unfortunately never put the practice in that I was supposed to. So it's never really gone to where I wanted it to go. But it's a nice backing to have, and it helps with your playing, no matter what you play, to actually have more understanding of what you're doing. And so after that, like I say, after my lessons, I actually lost all my jazz gigs. So I haven't been doing jazz much at all. I was doing a few pop stuff. The last 8 years or so, I've been playing with a rock band every Saturday night at a venue that's been going non-stop for 8 years, a band called Trist. And it's just a nice little rock outfit, 3-piece. It's very open. You can do whatever you like. I must say, when I started playing bass in, as I said, 1980, what came out at that time was the band called Level 42, which sort of became my hero man, old Mark King, and a lot of my style. That old Level 42 stuff, it got into my blood, and I mean that's how, when I was learning to play, we got into playing Level 42, and in those days it's before YouTube and before all that kind of stuff, and we never even knew what this guy was doing. You just heard this tone, and we heard about slap bass. You hit the bass with your thumb, and what's that? So we had to work out ways and means of doing this. We had no idea what it was really about, and in that way we kind of developed our own techniques, which is, I think, for me, is quite different for a lot of other guys out there that they watch the technique and they got the Victor Wooten thing down and they got this guy's down, and to us, we just worked our way through it and we've developed our own way of doing it, and I think it gives us a slight unique edge to how we play because of that kind of thing. But I mean, from there, and I progressed through all the bass players. I love Jacko. Not that I can play his stuff. I like to work on it and go through it and that, but he's an incredible player. Stanley Clarke, of course, in those days as well, was the speed king, He'd love to do the fast stuff. So I also like the fast stuff as well, but I've kind of learnt to control it. At least I hope so. Maybe not everybody thinks so. I like to play fast. I like to do the fast slapping riffs, but I like to combine it with a nice, good, solid groove. For me, that works. I hate it when guys, as everybody says, just go on a tangent and play too much, and you lose the bottom end. You need to have that groove going. But to do a nice fill every now and then, it just adds a bit of spice to it, And it also depends on the kind of gig you're doing. If it's really a serious gig and it's somebody, a featured artist, of course, you hold back. You don't do that kind of thing. But when it's open, three-piece gig, I mean, when I played with Johan Meiring, he used to say, overplay, please, just make the gig a bit more interesting, do it, I mean, my favorite bass player still till today is the man called Nathan East. For me, he's the classiest bass player ever. He's not a featuring guy that does crazy stuff, but he just plays a groove that is just incredible to listen to. Any album that you hear him playing on, you just hear what he's doing. It's just, I love it, he's for me the greatest guy around. I'm doing a lot of different kind of gigs nowadays, playing a lot of acoustic gigs. I'm doing a lot of them for free because I just love playing. I'll sit in there with guys and take my acoustic bass and I'll play along with these guys, and just for fun. I just enjoy it so much. I'm getting so much out of it. So that's what it's about, having fun and enjoying yourself. Yeah, locally there are some nice guys out there. I mean, I've got the biggest respect for Denny Lalouette. I mean, for what that man does, as a sound engineer, I've worked with him many times as well. And just to hear how perfectly he lays down tracks and does stuff, it's just also mind-boggling that somebody can be like that. He's a machine, just seeing him at gigs, he's so tasteful in his playing. But there's a few guys out there. I did say we do lack in the amount of great bass players. We don't have a whole lot of them. But I mean, there's guys like, I think my son mentioned as well, there's Concord, there's Theo Klaassen, there's Victor Masondo. There's quite a few of these guys out there that can really get in there if they want to, In the old days, it used to be four-play. That was my favorite band, and whatever they brought out, I got, and I listened to it. But I must say, it was a bit of a trend. The first four-play album was the best ever, and Lee Ritner on guitar, for me, is also just kills it all. I think the last stuff I really listened to was Dirty Loops, just the way they take songs and change them crazy and do this whole fusion thing over it. It's beautiful, I love it. I don't have a favorite song per se, I mean, funny enough, you always see these posts on Facebook about, if the band plays Mustang Sally, they're going to charge extra for it and that. But, I actually quite enjoy jamming that song. It's quite a groovy song. I like to slap it at them. You can really get stuck into that thing, and when you got the freedom to do whatever you like, then why not, you can groove it. I loved one of the things that Victor Wooten said, and he actually proved it at a seminar I watched on YouTube, of playing more in the groove than playing the right notes. Now, of course, right notes is important and it's great, but if you miss them and you're still sticking in that groove, it actually doesn't matter. You can play the whole song in the wrong keys with the right groove, and it still works. But yet you can play the right notes with no groove, and it sounds terrible. To me, it's something you got to live and experience and work through it. It's not something you get in a book, because to me it sounded it's not sitting with the tempo. It's something you got to play around with it and you got to feel it. I started off with a bass that somebody gave me, an old Ibanez. It was a jazz copy, and my brother had an Ibanez precision copy, so it was always a big thing. I was the jazz guy and my brother was the P-bass guy, and for years it's been like that. And I must say, only now I'm starting to change over, I've got to say. But anyway, I bought myself a nice Ibanez Musician when I was first bass that I actually bought. Then I sold it to get another Ibanez 5-string USA custom, and it was a beautiful bass. But then, I've always liked the extra string. When you're going from 4 to 5, it was beautiful because you used to listen to recordings and you hear that low tone. You're like, what is that? It's a 5-string bass. So I got a 5-string eventually, and then you were hearing a bit of the 6-string. That's also got that unique tone to it, and it just adds so much to the bass, for me anyway. So when I started hearing that, I thought I need to go for a 6-string. So I got myself a Yamaha, because I always liked the Yamahas, and eventually the Yamaha brought out a range that were quite affordable, and it was a TRB 1006 rather. When I got an upgrade, this one, I decided to change that one to a fretless. So that's a beautiful fretless that I've just got going now for me. Then of course this is my main baby. It's the Yamaha John Patitucci Signature Series. And I must say, it's also thanks to Danny Lalouette, because I was with him the day he was given his from Yamaha, and he actually asked me to demo it for him so he could actually hear what it sounded like out there. So I took this bass and I played it, and it's like butter in your hands, and the tone, everything about it was just amazing. And it's the best bass I had ever played then, and probably still to this day, I think it's the nicest bass I've ever played. And I said then, that was many years ago, I said, that's one bass I'm going to get one day. And I did, eventually. I actually had the model below, well, just the P6 before this. And it was also a nice bass, but it wasn't doing exactly what I wanted. And it got stolen, along with 2 other basses, quite a few years back. So insurance, I was insured, thank goodness. They paid me out, and I decided, because also you got to buy a bass out of a catalogue almost. They don't have them hanging on stocks in those days anyway. You couldn't try them out. So I just thought, let me try the John Paratucci. And I got it, and this bass just suits me to the T. I mean, it's like it was made for me. I just love it. It's just everything I wanted in the bass. You asked earlier, what's your favorite bass? What bass would you like to have? And to me, I've got it. You know, I don't need anything else. It would be nice again to have a Fodera. I even called my one dog Fodera, because Fodera is nice. It's probably one of the most expensive basses you can get. Nice Anthony Jackson, you know, signature series Fodera. It'll cost you around R500,000. You know, why not? You know, it'll be lekker. But I don't need it. You know, this bass it's a boutique bass. It'll give you everything in that boutique range that you could want. I've got Fenders. I've got a Fender Jazz. I've got a Fender Precision that my son uses. And so I've got the Fenders there. I wouldn't mind a couple of extra Fenders. I do like them. The other bass I'm using quite a lot now, after Jason introduced me to the double bass, I got myself a nice electric EUB, electric upright bass. And this thing is beautiful, and it's a piece people look at it and say, what is that? A violin, you know, or cello? But it's the bass. So it's a beautiful bass as well, just to give you that nice bottom end and not having to worry about the acoustic side of things. It plugs in and it plays easily, much easier than an acoustic bass, and obviously your level problem is not a problem. You plug into an amp and you're there and you've got sound. And then you know, my surprise bass that I mentioned a bit earlier is super expensive. Now actually this is my cheapest bass that I've got. Also Ibanez, nothing wrong with Ibanez, it's a great bass. But this bass I'm probably using more than all my other basses put together, because like I said, I've been doing so many acoustic gigs and stuff like that, and it just works, man. I've even muted it a bit at the bottom there. There's a bit of sponge. I've got a feedback eliminator that also just sort of gives it a bit more of a deader sound, and this thing sings like a double bass, you know. It just works for acoustic gigs, just backing behind a guitar. There's for me nothing better, you know. I'm just loving it. Mark bass amplification, you know, it's kind of runs in the family as well. Well, not my brother, he hasn't got one yet. He would like to get one. It's just, you know, when can we afford to buy this stuff is another problem. But I also went for the Mark IV 800 tube. It's got the little valve inside there. It's got the upgraded DI output. And the 2x10, I mean, obviously we can use whatever cars we need depending on the gig. I still actually want to get something smaller for the acoustic gigs, because as light and as nice as it is, just to carry just something a little bit smaller, which Mark bass does make. But one day when I got a bit more of a bonus that I can use or something, I'll get one of those.